Mr. Adama Dieng to come forward and give us his closing note address. Thank you very much, sir. Merci beaucoup à tous. Je disais que je vous remercie beaucoup pour votre attention pendant toutes les conversations qui ont eu lieu pendant la conférence. Mister? Please go ahead.
Monsieur le ministre de la Justice, mon cher ami et frère Johnson Busingye, mon cher Jean Damascène, Monsieur le ministre des Affaires étrangères de l'Arménie, président en exercice de la francophonie, chers invités, mesdames et messieurs, c'est avec un immense plaisir que j'ai accepté l'invitation à participer à cette conférence internationale de Kigali qui déjà est un immense succès. Je dois à la vérité dire que les différentes interventions auxquelles il m'a été donné d'écouter avec, je dirais, religiosité, m'ont convaincu que depuis le Rwanda, nous avons certainement la possibilité d'engager une lutte sans merci pour finalement mobiliser les États à assumer leur responsabilité de protéger les populations lorsqu'elles font face à des crimes d'atrocité, crimes de génocide, crimes contre l'humanité, crimes de guerre. C'était en décembre dernier, à Yerevan, en Arménie, nous avons eu le deuxième forum mondial sur l'éducation à la prévention du génocide. Et hier matin, beaucoup d'intervenants sont revenus sur l'importance de l'éducation. Et quand on voit ce qui se passe aujourd'hui dans notre planète, il est urgent de mobiliser les hommes, les femmes, pour que l'on puisse éduquer nos enfants, mais pas seulement nos enfants, éduquer aussi nos leaders à la prévention du génocide. Il y a 25 ans, près d'1 million de personnes au Rwanda ont été massacrées dans la tragédie la plus insensée. Une tragédie qui défie complètement l'imagination humaine. Elles ont été tuées simplement à cause de leur identité ethnique Tutsi. Le Rwanda a parcouru un long chemin depuis les jours sombres de 1994, mais les cicatrices de ces jours sont toujours évidentes. Évidentes lorsque nous écoutons le témoignage des survivants, ainsi que lorsque nous examinons l'impact continu du génocide et de ses conséquences dans la région. Aux survivants du génocide, nous nous devons de prendre toutes les mesures possibles en notre pouvoir pour protéger les populations de notre planète d'un autre Rwanda. Il n'y a aucune excuse pour l'inaction. Les crises en cours dans le monde entier nous rappellent clairement à tous ici, dans cette salle, qu'il faut faire davantage pour que la prévention du crime de génocide devienne une réalité. Partout dans le monde, des personnes, hommes, femmes, enfants, personnes âgées, continuent d'être tuées, maltraitées, déplacées et victimes de discrimination sur la base de leur identité. Nous avons tous une responsabilité à cet égard. Nous devons redoubler d'efforts pour les protéger des atrocités criminelles et veiller à ce que tous soient traités avec la dignité et le respect qu'ils méritent sur la base de notre humanité commune. Aujourd'hui, nous nous souvenons de toutes les victimes du génocide contre les Tutsis au Rwanda. et reconnaissons la douleur et le courage de ceux qui ont survécu. Nous devons exercer le Umuganda, ou nous rassembler dans un but commun pour prévenir les actes évitables et contrer la cruauté qui se déroule sous nos yeux. Le Rwanda, nom de ce beau pays paradisiaque, baptisé le pays des 1000 collines ou encore le pays du printemps éternel, est associé à jamais à la pire image de l'humanité. Nous n'oublierons jamais le génocide contre les Tutsis au Rwanda. Un génocide d'autant plus scandaleux qu'il a été perpétré sous le regard de la communauté internationale, qui a fait le choix indescriptible de ne pas intervenir pour le prévenir ou l'arrêter. While history and historians will continue to do their inquiry into what the United Nations and indeed individual countries would or would not have done to prevent the Rwandan tragedy, what I can say is that in 1994, the United Nations failed Rwanda. In 1994, the Organization of the African Unity also failed Rwanda. Indeed, humanity failed Rwanda. 25th anniversary is therefore not only a period of commemoration, but also a reflection on how much this country has done to heal itself. It is also an opportunity for the international community to ponder upon what it has done and achieved in its quest to prevent similar tragedies. Despite the failure of your friends and partners, the people of Rwanda have painstakingly demonstrated to the world that a life with purpose will always prevail against all adversities. As we mark 25 years since the tragedy, since the genocide of the Tutsis in Rwanda, we seize this opportunity to salute the survivors and pay our utmost tribute to the victims. Today, we are witnessing a country whose courage to unite and heal its people has been profound and remarkable. Rwanda has shown to the world that when justice and reconciliation are pursued with the sincere aim of healing and uniting the society, everyone wins. Today, we remember all the victims of the genocide and recognize the pain and courage of those who survive. We salute the people of this country for the healing and consolidation of peace within and beyond their homeland. As for the United Nations, we will continue to work with Rwanda, not only in its incredible journey of healing, but also as partners for peace and development. Indeed, the prominent role the people of Rwanda have assumed in supporting peacekeeping operations in war-torn countries such as South Sudan, Mali, Central African Republic, and elsewhere is an example worth emulation. The earlier role in Darfur and Bangui, where Rwanda peacekeepers did their utmost to save civilian lives, can be attributed to their tragic experience in 1994, when the country was left to fend for itself in its hour of need and deep appreciation of the importance of peace and security, especially in countries experiencing conflict. It is this admirable role that Rwanda continues to play in peacemaking and peacekeeping around the world that the international community is proud and grateful for. While we did not need genocide in Rwanda for us to be reminded and indeed reaffirm our commitment to never again, as enshrined in the Charter, It is with profound sadness that today, as we gather here in this entire arena, we cannot confidently say that genocide ideology, or rather the precursors to genocide, have been conquered or defeated. Violence and conflict, whether in the name of politics, ethnicity, religion, natural resources, or sheer power, is one of the most profound and enduring global challenges which continue to tear societies apart. We continue to witness neighborhoods and communities torn apart by senseless acts of violence, discrimination, intolerance, xenophobia, racism, and intense poverty and marginalization. These issues undoubtedly cause immeasurable pain, suffering, and humiliation to its victims. We therefore need to continue working together to confront this terrible phenomenon. We should collectively commit to a world of peace, fairness, justice, and empowerment. And I'm pleased to say that the people of Rwanda have shown the way. It is incumbent on the rest of the world to emulate this example, to do more to lessen suffering for humanity. When last year I visited the Western Balkans, and precisely Bosnia and Herzegovina, I invited the leadership of that country, from the Minister of Foreign Affairs to the Presidency, to pay a visit to Rwanda and to see how, after such tragic event, this country was able to get together. And I think this morning, one of the speakers referred to Kinyarwanda word, Gusiro, and I think that is really what is needed in that part of the world. But as I said, the collective failure of humanity in Rwanda shook our institutions to the core and led to reform both the OAU and the United Nations. And as a response to this failure, in 2004, the Secretary General proposed the creation of the Office of the Special Advisor for the Prevention of Genocide, whose primary role is to act as an early warning mechanism within the UN system and a catalyst for action to prevent genocide and related crimes. While the United Nations and indeed the African Union have made great strides to create legal and institutional framework for prevention, we are still far from an ideal situation. Individually and collectively, member states should do more. Despite efforts by the United Nations, my office specifically on prevention, suffice to say that prevention of conflict and protection of population from atrocity crimes remain a primary responsibility of states. Indeed, in the World Outcome Summit document in 2005, the UN member states reaffirmed their responsibility to protect population from genocide, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, and crimes against humanity, as well as their incitement. Similarly, a few years earlier, the African Union had adopted Article 4H in the AU Constitutive Act, which reaffirmed the commitment to the principle of non-interference and the right of the organization to intervene to prevent atrocity crimes. We all agree in this room that for both organizations, this was a tremendous milestone. Yet, despite the unequivocal commitment, we continue to witness emerging and protracted conflicts coupled with extreme forms of identity-based violence, with devastating impact to human life, as evidenced in Mali, and you all have been shocked by what happened recently against the Fulani community. And I was a bit sad to not hear many African voices joining our voice to what is happening in that country. And unfortunately, it's not only in Mali. We are seeing it in Myanmar, in Syria, Yemen, CAR, South Sudan, among many others. And unfortunately, some of these conflicts are perpetrated at the behest or indeed at the acquiescence of states or those in the position to prevent them. It is this sobering reality which calls not only for our collective action, but also fundamental reassessment of how we approach a resolution of these conflicts. I would like to especially implore the African Union to pay more attention to the principles of non-indifference and commit to serious reflection on how this principle can be better operationalized to protect population from atrocity crimes, because this provision was included in the Constitutive Act as a lesson of the failure of the African leadership in Rwanda. And because of that, they put that provision which yet need to be operationalized. And indeed, the suffering we see in Mali, South Sudan, Darfur, elsewhere, demands serious reflection and answers. And as I said earlier, we do not need another Rwanda tragedy to remind us that indifference to the suffering of others betrays the very foundation and fabric of our common humanity. And let me say, before to conclude, as we were reminded by my friend and former colleague Charles Petrie, today's crises are taking place against a backdrop of retreating internationalism, diminishing respect of international humanitarian and human rights law, political disunity in key decision-making bodies such as the Security Council, and a level of defeatism about promoting ambitious agenda like protection. We have been witnessing an alarming disregard for fundamental tenets of international law in many of the armed conflicts that have ignited in recent years. Parties to the conflict are consistently violating international humanitarian law, from the deliberate targeting of civilians by non-state armed groups to the indiscriminate use of air power by states against civilian populated areas and sites where civilians have sought refuge. The violation of international humanitarian law has become a regular feature of armed conflict. We have seen widespread and flagrant attacks on protected civilian objects, such as hospitals and schools, as well as on protected persons, such as humanitarian and healthcare workers. Journalists and human rights defenders also continue to be targeted in alarming number. It is a sobering fact that despite the emergence of brutal non-state armed groups, the most serious violations of international humanitarian and human rights law, which could amount to atrocity crimes, are still being committed by the armed forces and auxiliary militia of state, or in some cases, the coalitions of states supporting them. We must not give up hope. However, while we are seeing many negative trends, we are also seeing cause for hope in the incredible and life-affirming work of individuals, communities, and civil society organizations who risk their lives to prevent violence and atrocity crimes. We are seeing cause for hope in Africa, following the recent signing by the Gambia of the Africa Trade Treaty, which has been considered as one of the greatest achievements in this continent, thanks to a man to whom we owe a lot. We owe it to the leadership of President Kagame, who demonstrated during his presidency of the continental organization, the African Union, that Africans can deliver if they are truly committed, that Africans don't need to wait orders to build this continent. We have seen it just before I came to this tribune. The young people of this country demonstrated their talent during the panel which just concluded. So if we empower our youth, if we empower our women as President Kagame did in this country, having today the record of women MPs in the world, we can transform this continent. But we need a bold leadership in this continent. We don't want leaders who are hanging in power just for the sake of power. We want leaders like President Kagame. And I can say that many times when I travel, people say to me, please help us to have President Kagame to rule our country. But I said the problem is what is needed is really to get the people to develop their sense of belonging to a nation. And that is what we have seen in this country. And I can say that we can be proud of you, Rwanda. Rwanda has demonstrated that even after tragic adversities, humanity can always conquer and rise from the ashes. And the leadership of President Kagame is definitely an exemplary model for management of diversity. A management of diversity that aims at forging common future amongst people of Rwanda, to foster a unifying national identity, to transcend real and imaginary differences. Let's never forget that wherever you have seen genocide, you have been witnessing a very bad management of diversity. And what is being done in this country is a constructive management of diversity. And that is what is needed today in many parts of the world and in our part of the world, in this region, in Africa. We need leaders who manage constructively diversity. And I will simply end by saying, you, the people of Rwanda, you are continuing to serve as profound inspiration to our global quest of preventing genocide and atrocity crimes. And I would simply say once again, we are together. We are going to continue together to work with you in this journey for peace, justice, and development. I thank you.